This analysis is for you, Commanders fans. If you're looking to understand what's happening with our offensive line and how it's developing, especially against a challenging schedule, get ready for exclusive coverage. We'll take a closer look at the progress of some of our key players and the impact this improvement can have on the team as a whole. But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video, because updates here are always complete and tailored for those who truly understand and follow the Commanders. If you follow the NFL, you know the New York Giants have one of the most destructive pass rushes of the season. The first time we faced them, it wasn't pretty. Jayden Daniels, our young and promising QB, took 5 sacks. The offensive line seemed fragile and full of weak spots. But what we saw last Sunday was completely different. Bobby Johnson's unit managed to neutralize this quarterback-crushing machine and kept our QB safe the entire game. Not bad for a group that started the year full of doubts and criticism, right? The truth is that nobody expected much from our offensive line. Many analysts questioned whether the Commanders had done enough to strengthen the unit. I remember reading several analyses on Hogs Haven, and many were pessimistic. Our line was coming from a year where we allowed the second most sacks in the league, tied with the Panthers. That was 65 sacks total, and for those who understand football, you know how much that impacts a team. As a true fan, I confess I was quite worried. During the offseason, attention was mainly focused on the left guard and center positions, critical areas of our line. Performance in these positions was so poor last year that it directly affected the offense's performance. But then came Tyler Biadasz and Nick Allegretti. Biadasz, who replaced Nick Gates, quickly proved to be a solid addition, and Allegretti also brought improvement, even if not as dramatic. They provided more security for the QB, and that made all the difference. Sometimes we think big names make the team, but football is much more about having a solid foundation. One of the big surprises was the choice of Andrew Wylie and Cornelius Lucas for the edges of the offensive line. They didn't have the best statistics, and many people criticized the coach's choice. But you know that story about statistics not telling everything? Well, these two were essential in maintaining protection and surprised even the most optimistic fans. And even with rookie Brandon Coleman's draft, whom we expected to take the lead, Wylie and Lucas showed that experience counts for a lot. The numbers say our offensive line was far from being one of the worst. We know that Sam Howell, our starting QB last year, suffered not only from protection issues but also from lack of mobility. In 2023, Howell was the most sacked QB in the league, largely due to his inability to escape pressure. But with Jayden Daniels, we saw an important change. This kid has a reading and evasion ability that helps the line gain confidence and consistency. With all this evolution, we arrive at the highlight of this news. The revenge game against the Giants in Week 9. Daniels was well protected, and our offensive line only allowed 4 pressures during the entire game, an incredible feat considering the opponent's strength. And the best part? Rookie Brandon Coleman, who took over as starting left tackle, didn't allow a single pressure the entire game. Can you imagine the impact of that for a rookie player? I can barely contain my excitement. The game performance was a watershed moment for the Commanders, and I believe we can now view our offensive line differently. In recent years, we were always seen as a team that couldn't protect the QB, but now things have changed. Bobby Johnson's hiring is proving to be more successful than many expected. He managed to organize this group, and look, we might have one of the most promising lines in the league. And that, my friends, is cause for celebration. The Commanders have been showing signs of evolution in the offensive line, something few fans could imagine after the first weeks of the season. One of the biggest highlights goes to rookie Brandon Coleman, a third-round pick, who is surprising as left tackle. Back in Week 2, he was pressured and allowed 2 hits in just 13 snaps against the Giants' pass rushers, which made many question his readiness. But look now. What we see is a player who, with patience and development, is growing and improving every game. Coleman is finally showing the potential we all expected. Since then, Coleman has seen a significant increase in his playing time. And in Week 4's game against the Cardinals, he put on a real show, allowing no pressures and 20 blocking snaps. For a rookie, this type of performance doesn't go unnoticed, especially when considering the Commanders' offensive line history. Now, of course, he's not perfect. His pressure rate remains at 10% of snaps, double the average for a starting LT. But considering he's just starting, this performance is already an encouraging advancement. And it's not just Coleman who has shown this quality leap. Veteran Andrew Wylie, whom many viewed with skepticism after a previous season where he suffered 9 sacks, has become a pillar in protection on the right side. In the 9 weeks of this season, he is one of only 4 offensive tackles who have played more than 300 snaps without giving up a single sack. That's right, 0 sacks. This kind of consistency is rare and puts Wylie in an elite list alongside names like Mike Onwenu and Tristan Wirfs, which is no small feat. And of course, this gives our quarterback Jaden Daniels enormous peace of mind. Wylie's progress is even more impressive when we remember his transition from guard to right tackle in 2021. Initially, he struggled with the change, but season after season, he improved his skills, and today shows one of the best pass protections among tackles in the league. This is the type of player you want to have on the line, someone who evolves over time and proves their worth where it's most needed. And we as fans know how fundamental this is in a league where pressure is constant. Another name that deserves highlight is swing tackle Cornelius Lucas, who signed with the Commanders in 2020 and faced various difficulties over the last few seasons. In 2021 and 2022, he was pressured to be a starter, and his performance visibly declined, even raising doubts about his permanence on the team. However, in 2023, he began to find his rhythm again. And now in 2024, sharing the position with Coleman, he has been a key element in this new phase of the offensive line. This renaissance is important for the team's rotation and provides more security to the protection scheme. And speaking of protection, it's worth noting that in the NFL, offensive tackles who allow pressure on less than 5% of snaps usually receive long and valuable contracts, while those in the 6% range are considered solid but not indispensable players. When numbers exceed 6%, we're talking about athletes who need quick improvements or are rookies in development. Fortunately, both Wylie and Coleman have shown numbers that point to consistent evolution, which puts the Commanders' line at an interesting level for upcoming games. This weekend, the Commanders' offensive line faces a heavyweight challenge, facing the Pittsburgh Steelers' defense, one of the most feared in the league. With a pass rush led by TJ Watt, who has already accumulated 5 sacks, 14 QB hits, and leads the league in forced fumbles, it won't be easy to keep the quarterback safe. But the progress we've seen in the Commanders' pass protection since the start of the season gives us some confidence that they're prepared to handle this threat. And this is where the work of offensive line coach Bobby Johnson and offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury stands out. The synergy created between running and passing games, the involvement of running backs and wide receivers in blocking support, and the use of schemes that help reduce pressure on the line have been key elements in the improvement we're seeing. This offensive line is no longer the one that constantly failed. Now, it has a structure and strategy that allow players to perform their functions more efficiently. And without doubt, this directly impacts the performance of the entire Commanders' offense. Now the big question is, will this offensive line continue to evolve throughout the season? Will we see Brandon Coleman reach the level of an elite starter? And Andrew Wylie, will he maintain his performance without allowing sacks until the end of the year? Fans, leave in the comments your opinion about this growth of the Commanders' offensive line and what you expect from them for the upcoming games. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow all updates. The season still promises many exciting moments.